Hello, sisters. Welcome to She Talks. I'm Sara Avant Stover, a yoga and meditation teacher, best-selling author, and founder of The Way the Happy Woman. And I'm so happy to share that my brand new book, The Book of She, Your Heroine's Journey into the Heart of Feminine Power, is now available wherever books are sold and at thebookofshe.com. To celebrate her arrival throughout the months of October and November, I'll be featuring a special series called She Stories, where we hear the heroines' journeys of 14 inspiring female leaders. I'm so happy you're here, and I hope you enjoyed today's interview. Hello, beautiful women. Welcome home. Welcome to She Talks. And today I'm speaking with Andrea Lee, who is my own business mentor and who helped me to create The Way of the Happy Woman and even this podcast into what it is here today. She is an activist, an entrepreneur, a speaker, author, and founder of Wealthy Thought Leader. And I have yet to meet anyone else who thinks the way that Andrea does, just putting together very different concepts in unique and creative ways, opening up pathways to innovation in business and in life. So welcome, Andrea. And for those of you who want to learn more about her after this interview, you can find her at AndreaJLee.com. That's AndreaJlee.com. And that will also be in the show notes. So welcome.
Thanks for having me, Sarah.
It's really great to have you and to kind of turn the tables and interview you. Usually we're in the coaching scenario, but it's nice to have this chance to get to know you better as a woman.
I'm looking very forward to it.
So, Andrea, we always begin our gatherings here at The Way the Happy Woman with a little personal check-in. So I'd love for you to share with us where you're calling from today and how you're doing at the levels of your body, mind, and heart.
I am calling in from Vancouver Island off the coast of British Columbia. I can see Vancouver off in the distance. It's a beautiful sunny day today, and I see a sailboat on the water across the street. I feel very joyful today. My mind is quieter these days as I've been deepening my meditation practice. My body is more awake as I've been enjoying blackberries and the summer sun. And my spirit and my heart is filled with happiness at being able to talk with you about these important, juicy things with women in this community. So I feel very aligned and relaxed and very happy.
I love envisioning that sailboat going by. As you know, here in Colorado, we're very landlocked, so I long for the water a lot of times. Although the mountains outside my window are quite amazing as well, just in a different way.
I'm sure, yeah, I'm sure.
So, Andrea, you've been with me since before, since when this book was just an idea. And now we're here talking about it as it has come out into the world. And we've never really sat down to talk about the concepts inside of it and how they relate to you. And so I'm curious, just going back, if you look back over your life as a woman and growing up within the larger global monomyth of Joseph Campbell's hero's journey, how has that been for you? Is that a narrative that you related to? And if so, what was that relationship like?
Yes, the hero's journey was very much something I related to. I think that my relationship with it was mixed, kind of like I wanted to love it. I did love it, but I wanted to love it more. I wanted to understand it more. But it seemed it seems like I had a love-hate relationship with it sometimes. And I think the hate part was that it did feel a little bit, it did, to me feel a little bit hard to drop into it through the different moods that I was in my life. Like sometimes I would feel childlike and in need of guidance. Sometimes I would feel like I might know something, maybe one or two things, and it didn't feel. I didn't feel as if I could be in dialogue with it as much as I wanted to, and I think that I treated it as this kind of other, like an arm's length thing that it had shoulds in it for some reason, and so I think I just stopped short somehow of allowing myself to feel as one with it as I might have. But I did really love the imagery of it, the ideas of bringing home the magic elixir really appealed to me, and have really given me a whole lot of wisdom to navigate with.
And also having an Asian heritage, you have Taiwanese roots, is that right?
Yeah. Uh-huh.
Is this at all part of that culture as well?
Taiwan is such a melting pot, and interestingly, one of its most predominant lineages is Japanese and Japanese Buddhism, and also of course strong Chinese roots. There are definitely myths that I think echo the hero's journey around dragons and slaying beasts and demons and things like that. But I would say that overall, it's pretty different. I would say it's more open. Like the conversation around life's purpose and journey is just more open, and there are many more things to relate to, many different gods and goddesses and deities. So I think in flavor, it's just kind of like the difference between having a one-on-one conversation and having a one-to-many conversation, it feels like.
And then did you grow up in the U.S. or in Taiwan?
I was actually born in Canada. The whole thing is...
Oh, sorry, I meant Canada.
Yeah. That's the good thing about Canadians is we won't take offense to that. But yeah, I was almost made in Taiwan, is the joke in a sense. But I was born in Canada and grew up my whole childhood here.
In Vancouver?
In Ottawa, which is the capital of Canada on the east coast, and then in Vancouver, yeah. Mm-hmm.
And now as you're working with entrepreneurs, you work a lot in activism. How do you see the hero's journey playing out in those realms?
There's definitely a call, it's a very powerful tug or pull to those of us who consider ourselves activists. And, I'll just be full out with my bias there. I mean, I don't know of anyone who is awake who isn't somehow living activist energy. So, I think that the call to stand up and look into the world at the dragons, if we want to call them that, those are some of the similarities for sure. Mm-hmm.
And just to give listeners a little bit more, just a snapshot into your world, can you tell us a little bit more about what kind of activism you're involved in and what kind of work with entrepreneurs?
Mm-hmm. My current journey has a lot to do with eradicating violence in the world, specifically family and intimate partner violence. Oftentimes in the world it's called gender-based violence, but that's part of the problem, in my opinion, is that term. So I don't refer to it as, I call it, family violence. And in terms of within the entrepreneurship world, regrettably, entrepreneurship, I think, has a conversation within it that has been overlooked, and that is how often we fall into conflict within ourselves, but also with our team, with our vendors, even with unhappy clients if we have those. So peacemaking and navigating quote unquote conflict and creating ways to handle violence in our conversations is a big part of today's focus with entrepreneurs. And in the last 10 to 15 years, I've worked a lot with entrepreneurs on all sorts of things like marketing, branding, income streams, profit creation, team building. But now, as I evolve, I'm working more on the conversational side, on the leadership side, on the activism side.
Mm. So as you're on this evolving heroine's journey, moving into a new season of your career with more focus on this activism, what does the phrase "the heroine's journey" elicit for you?
You should see my face. Like, if you all could see my face, I would not have to say anything in answer to that question. I feel lit up about it. I feel like maybe before, like if we're all in this together, we had a flashlight and we were finding our way with a flashlight. But now we can put the flashlight down because the lights have come on in the entire room. That's how I feel about the heroine's journey. Mm. There's just an illumination of what is happening in my life, an illumination of what is happening for our world, what's happening in our communities. Let's get this party started. The lights are on. That's how it feels.
And what do you feel are the primary differences between the hero's and heroine's journey? Just having not fully related to the hero's journey, but feeling really illuminated by the heroine's journey. What's the difference there for you?
I think a very large part, there are a lot of differences, but a big part of it is that for me, I don't think I'm alone in this. I feel the passage of time very personally, whether it's in like this morning I wake up and there are more gray hairs on my dog's face, or yesterday's salad is wilted, or this year's new fig tree isn't producing anything this year, but last year's fig tree is producing figs this year. And I feel like this journey, the heroine's journey, takes into account that reality, that seasons come and go, and time ebbs and flows. And that's a relief, honestly, Sarah, that we get to speak about what's happening in acknowledgement of those cycles. Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm. And it's for both the hero and heroine's journey, it's really either a crisis or a major life transition that brings us onto the journey. We receive the call. Mm-hmm. And one of the focuses that I have for the heroine's journey is that it is these rites of passage that can be seen as a failure, like a divorce or career job loss or major career change or death of a loved one, health crisis. Mm-hmm. What was your, I know we might have many in our lives, we usually have many, but what was one of your big calls onto the heroine's journey that really became a doorway to the woman that you are today?
What I'm about to share is actually the subject of my next book, and it's such a profound thing. I couldn't be happier to share it here with you today, Sarah, and everyone. It doesn't even matter why, but I used to be an extremely, extremely angry woman.
I cannot imagine that. I know it's possible, but it's hard to imagine.
Yeah, and that's the doorway that you're referring to. The pain that represented, and then the call that prompted for me to work through, what you call the descent and, all the beautiful steps one of them ending the war within. Oh my God, Sarah, that's exactly the doorway was for me, saying and deciding with all my being, this pain is the path, and that from there I was able to choose who I became next.
Mm. When was this that you were going through this doorway?
I would say like 7 or 8 years ago.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
What was the anger about for you? Because as women, we all carry a lot of rage.
Mm-hmm.
Usually, I think the emotion that's most in shadow for us, actually anger is a combination of emotions, but it's more of a reaction. What's most in shadow is anger. Either it's deeply suppressed or it's overly expressed. But we're not really taught how to work with its power.
So true.
Its clarifying power of setting boundaries and standing up when a rule has been broken. Mm-hmm. Something isn't right. What was your anger about?
Mm-hmm. You know, the layers, there's so many of them, but to put it simply, I really think my anger was about kind of a karmic legacy of not being able to be a child. Taiwan is a country that was occupied by many different other empires, countries, and in a lot of ways its political history, I think, reflects the equivalent of like a human being who was not able to be a child at the time that being childlike was the right thing, the season. And I know now that those oceans, those fiery oceans of anger, those weren't just mine. There was a lot of family tree anger that had flowed down. And so it became really important for me to recognize that, anger and expressing anger in those ways that I used to express it was my response to not being able to do anything else with the suffering and the pain I felt. Exactly as you say, Sarah, my path took me to the overexpressed place, rageful, outward pressing of anger, thunderstorms of anger. And it's so true. I think that this is a new frontier that, you address so well in the book of She, that we have the opportunity to process and digest. Is I don't think it's right that this notion of an angry woman is so discomforting to society. It's just, there's a lot of work we get to do about that.
And whereas an angry man is usually very accepted.
Exactly.
And even respected.
Yes.
Yeah. So was there a certain moment when you just realized I can't live like this anymore? Like that's a big shift. Mm-hmm. How did you decide to do that?
Well, as you can imagine, it wasn't on my own. It wasn't me, I'm somehow singularly responsible. I am married to an incredible man named Mike, and for whatever reason, lots of mystery there. He steadfastly held a mirror until the day that I was able to be present with what until then had seemed like, what's wrong with this, and this is just how it is, and, no admission of the pain and wrongdoing and suffering I was causing, until I could see like my own Medusa's face in the mirror,
Mm-hmm.
and be frozen and transfixed by the painful, pixelated truth of this me at that time. And, that came in the form of another fight. But I think what was different at that time then was the accumulation of a lot of the little tiny things that I was attempting in my efforts to seek the light to do. So, Sarah, it used to be just inconceivable to me that I would pause and moisturize my own face.
Mm.
That I would even bother. Like my face was like the sole of a shoe. You never looked at it. You never cracked it dry and muddy. And, you didn't care for it. But, one day this notion of, let me just try and moisturize something. And then, let me, maybe a glass of water. This tiny little sparks of compassion for myself and self-love that became the seeds that grew into this moment that allowed me to say. And all of the rest of this is fearsomely ugly and gets to be transmuted now.
Mm-hmm. And what resources did you draw upon? Definitely your marriage.
Mm-hmm.
And that partnership was key.
Mm-hmm.
What else did you draw upon?
It's going to sound funny, but my mind finally got smart enough to say, oh, this is not a job for me alone. It's like my mind finally said, something is very wrong. Mm-hmm. And let's do something with our body.
Right.
And from the body, I took some courses. I did some yoga. I went into teacher training for Feldenkrais. And my whole time, Sarah, it was just like, something's really wrong here. I don't understand this meat sack. Like I'm like, I just was like this mind on a stick, and the rest of me is just coming along for a ride.
Right.
This flesh bag. And, it was really a moment of just divine guidance that there's more to your mind, that more to life than your mind.
And how did this anger bring you to this one of the things that is always so apparent to me every time I speak to you is just this joy.
Mm.
There's always joy right at the surface, ready to be shared. How did your anger bring you to this joy?
Oh, what a nice question that is. Nowadays I think it's fairly, we know this because of the sisters that have gone on before us and done this work, is that, you can't selectively numb your emotions, right? Dr. Brene Brown and many others now talking about this. So this is one of the, I call it one of the prizes of walking through the door. I'll say to Mike, it's like, we went through real hell. This means that the equivalent of happiness is
waiting.
And I really do think that's true. It's because I've really known what it means to be engulfed by that emotion of fear and grief and anger, that it's so easy, Sarah, to be happy. Everything is, this leaf right outside my window is green happiness. There's not a sailboat now, it's gone, but there's another little tugboat thingy. It's just everything, there's a little bug on my window. It's not hard to find happiness in contrast to the darker emotions.
Mm. And I think it's also important to note that it's not about eradicating your anger.
Mm-hmm.
So what is your relationship with anger now? Because we need our anger. very much.
Yeah, we do. My anger is like a battery inside me, filled with pulsing energy, like a perpetual motion machine that cannot be snuffed. It is fuel, it is nutrition, it is spiritual energy. It makes me wake up every morning ready. And when I wake up and I'm less than ready, I just need to remind myself of it. It is kind of like, in the olden days when you had a farmhouse and then you had like a little cold storage, little place where all the food was stored for reserves, and for if it was super cold, you needed an extra potato or, whatever it was. My anger feels like that. It feels like a storage of energy to be put to great use when it is needed.
And interesting that you're just so involved in activism now and moving in that direction, because it's really, that's the purified anger. That's the purified rage.
Yeah.
It's that fierce mother energy.
Yeah.
Of protecting, of being an advocate for those who aren't able to be advocates for themselves yet.
It's so interesting because I was reflecting the other day. I thought you might like this, Sarah. I was looking at society and kind of saying, who are the angry people that are my role models? And I realized something, there's a different lens to look at. When you think of the impassioned speeches of Gandhi or Martin Luther King or, those are angry people. Those are confoundingly, profoundingly, seriously angered people, putting their anger to good use. Audrey Hepburn, when she talks, Jane Goodall, when she speaks, her anger, and channels it like energy, like paint, to paint your life's art.
Because we can't be angry if we don't love deeply.
Right.
So it's like the deeper the love for something or someone, the deeper the anger. Otherwise, why bother?
Yeah, you wouldn't bother being angry with someone you didn't care about. So true. Yeah.
So, Andrea, what are some ways, just some practical ways every day that you stay connected to your inner life and your inner wisdom, just to keep you evolving and not, staying stuck in old patterns?
I definitely sit every day. I'm a new baby yogini, I heard that one pose a day makes me a yogini.
It's true. It's true. I'm so excited to hear that.
Yeah, I thought you might smile at that. I find really the core of my spiritual practice is to release the mind. So being out in nature, doing something a little bit physically challenging like swimming in the ocean or climbing a tree. And of course, presencing my breath and consciousness in those activities. Those are the things, and I'm coming into, I think, a little bit of an age where my spirituality is expressing itself a little bit more wildly, a little bit more musical, a little bit more, clanging of pots and pans in the kitchen, the ingredients everywhere and smells everywhere. And so that's super fun. But yeah, at the heart of it is sitting. Yeah.
And what feels like your growing edge, like your next area of either grit or expansion or both on your heroine's journey?
It's writing this story in just like we're hearing it today, conversationally and personally and closely in a community like this one, writing it and sharing it as a spiritual practice. So for myself and then for the world. And really letting that story of my heroine, walking through the door and so on, be one of the lights out in the world to hopefully help other people who might be feeling this angry today. Hopefully help us see what's being called gender-based violence very, very differently. But yeah, my growing edge is I've written so much. Thank you to my incredible mind, which brought my heart along and all those things. But now it's really heart first in my writing. It's a very different experience.
Beautiful. Well, I look forward to reading your story, and I so appreciate you sharing it with us here today. Are there any final words that you wanted to share before we part ways for now?
I feel really complete and really happy to be invited to this celebration of women, handling the many different things in all the many corners of the world. And it's just very special to be in sisterhood. So I want to thank you, Sara.
Thank you so much, Andrea. If you're ready to go deeper into your heroine's journey, I invite you to explore my new book, The Book of She. You can visit thebookofshe.com to register your receipt for this order before October 30th. And when you do, you'll receive an invitation to join me and our community in a free online women's yoga and meditation class, as well as a live Q&A. Until next time, I'm sending you my heartfelt support. Thank you so much for being part of our sisterhood.